135 enemy shells, 1 tank, 0 penetrations. What if I told you that on a single afternoon in 1941, one Soviet tank crew was hit by 135 enemy shells, and instead of panicking, they laughed? Now, what if I also told you that they destroyed 22 German tanks in 30 minutes while doing it? The Germans had a name for what happened that day. They called it Der Geistertank, or the ghost tank, because for 30 terrifying minutes, death was hunting them from a position they could not see, could not hit, and could not understand. This is the story of how one man turned a single tank into a legend that would haunt the German war machine forever. The date is August 20th, 1941. The German war machine has been steamrolling across the Soviet Union for exactly 2 months. 3 massive army groups are cutting through Soviet defenses like a hot knife through butter. In the north, Army Group North is racing toward Leningrad, which is the cradle of the Russian Revolution. If Leningrad falls, it's over. The psychological blow would be devastating. Stalin knows it, Hitler knows it. And standing between the German 6th Panzer Division and the city is one tiny village called Voiskovitsi. The population was barely 200 people. What the Germans do not know is that someone is waiting for them. Meet Senior Lieutenant Zinovy Grigorievich Kolobanov, 31 years old. A tank commander who's already survived the Winter War with Finland. He's about to pull off something so incredible that when he tells people about it after the war, they literally laugh in his face because they don't believe him. On August 19, 1941, Kolobanov receives orders that will change the course of history. The orders were: block the 3 roads to Gachina, stand to death. His weapon was the KV-1 heavy tank. This 45-ton steel monster was the most advanced tank in the world in 1941. Let me put this in perspective for you. Here's something that will blow your mind. The KV-1's frontal armor was 90 millimeters thick. That's nearly 4 inches of solid steel. The Germans were still using tanks with 37 millimeter guns. These weapons were so pathetic that their own crews nicknamed them door knockers, because that's literally all they could do against Soviet heavy armor. Knock politely and hope someone answered. But here's what makes this story absolutely insane. Kolobanov is not just following orders, he is setting the most elaborate tank ambush in military history. The terrain was absolutely perfect for an ambush. Picture this: one narrow road cutting through impassable swampland like a highway to hell. German tanks would be forced to drive single file with nowhere to maneuver. Kolobanov positioned his KV-1 exactly 300 meters from a T-shaped intersection. From this position, he could cover 2 possible approach roads. His other 4 tanks spread out to cover the remaining roads. Each tank carried double ammunition, 111 rounds per tank, with 2/3 being armor-piercing shells specifically designed to punch through German armor like paper. But here's the genius part, and this is where Kolobanov shows why he's about to become a legend. He gives his other commanders a crucial order. The orders were: only 1 tank engages at a time. Let the Germans think they are fighting a single tank, not 5. Why? Because he wants the Germans confident. He wants them to think they can handle 1 Soviet tank. He wants them to drive straight into his killing ground without fear. At 1400 hours on August 20th, German scouts on motorcycles roar past Kolobanov's position. He lets them go. They report back: road clear. No resistance. What they don't know is that they've just sealed the fate of 43 German tanks. Then they came. 43 German tanks in a massive column, mostly Panzer 35T light tanks from the 6th Panzer Division. These were Czech-built tanks, lightly armored, armed with 37mm pop guns. The vanguard of 3 entire panzer divisions, completely confident that the road to Leningrad was wide open. Kolobanov watches through his periscope as the German column approaches his carefully planned killing ground. His gunner, Senior Sergeant Andrei Usov, has his finger on the trigger of their 76mm gun. As the lead tank reaches 2 birch trees that Kolobanov had designated as Landmark Number 1, he gives the order that will echo through history. Landmark first, on the head, direct shot under the cross, armor piercing, fire. Boom. The lead tank exploded into a fireball that could be seen for miles. But here's where Kolobanov's psychological warfare begins. The Germans thought they had hit a mine. The entire column stopped, crews looking around nervously, trying to figure out what just happened. Usov's second shot destroyed the second tank. Now the Germans realized they were under attack. They had no idea where the shots were coming from. The Germans did what any rational person would do. They panicked. They started firing at everything: hay bales, shadows, trees, anything that might be hiding a Soviet tank. The hay bales caught fire, creating a smokescreen that made visibility even worse. Meanwhile, Kolobanov calmly ordered his gunner to target the rear of the column. With surgical precision, Usov destroyed the last tank in the column. The trap was sprung. 41 German tanks were now boxed in on a narrow road, surrounded by impassable swamp, with nowhere to run and an enemy they could not see. When the Germans tried to leave the road, their narrow tracks immediately bogged down in the soft ground. They were sitting ducks, and Kolobanov was just getting started. For the next 30 minutes, it was like a nightmare come to life for the German tankers. They poured everything they had at Kolobanov's position: 37mm shells, machine gun fire, even their personal sidearms in desperation. 135 direct hits on Kolobanov's tank. 135. But here's the thing that made this truly terrifying for the Germans. Those 37mm shells could not even scratch the KV-1's paint, let alone penetrate its armor. Picture this: you're a German tank commander. You're firing armor-piercing shells at point-blank range at an enemy tank, watching them bounce off like ping-pong balls while that same tank methodically destroys your friends one by one. Inside the KV-1, Kolobanov was calm as ice. Target the third tank from the left. Armor-piercing. Fire. Boom. Another German tank became a burning wreck. 5 tanks down, 10 tanks down, 15 tanks down, 20 tanks down. Usov was picking them off like targets in a shooting gallery. Each shot was deliberate, calculated, precise. The psychological impact was devastating. German survivors later reported seeing a ghost tank that appeared from nowhere and couldn't be killed. Many tankers abandoned their vehicles and fled on foot through the swamp. But then something happened that should have ended Kolobanov's legend before it began. After destroying 22 German tanks, Kolobanov's tank ran out of ammunition. The ghost tank suddenly became defenseless. The surviving German tanks, seeing that the firing had stopped, began to advance toward Kolobanov's position. This should have been the end of the story, the end of the legend, the end of Zinovy Kolobanov. But Kolobanov had one more card to play. "Bring up the second tank," he ordered. Remember those 4 other KV-1s that had been waiting silently? Now it was their turn. The slaughter continued. The second KV-1 picked up exactly where Kolobanov left off. When the smoke cleared 30 minutes after it began, 43 German tanks lay burning on the battlefield. An entire battalion wiped out by 5 Soviet tanks. German survivors stumbled through the swamp on foot, many abandoning their equipment, some their sanity. They reported back about ghost tanks that couldn't be destroyed, appearing from thin air to deliver death. The 6th Panzer Division's advance on Leningrad stopped cold. After the battle, Kolobanov's crew counted the damage. 135 hits, not a single penetration. The KV-1 looked like it had been through a hailstorm, but it was still operational. Kolobanov was awarded the Order of Lenin, the Soviet Union's highest honor. His gunner, Usov, received the Order of the Red Banner. But here's the tragic irony of this story, and this is something that really gets to me. This incredible victory was later downplayed by Soviet bureaucracy because it emphasized individual heroism over collective action. For decades, this battle was barely mentioned in official histories. When Kolobanov told his story after the war, people literally laughed in disbelief. They thought he was making it up. It seemed too incredible to be true. On September 15, 1941, just 26 days after his moment of glory, Kolobanov was badly wounded in the head and spine by exploding ammunition. He spent most of the rest of the war in the hospital. After the war, he faced court-martial when a subordinate escaped to the British zone while he was serving in occupied Germany. The man who had performed one of the war's greatest tank feats found himself on trial by his own side. It wasn't until 1980, nearly 40 years later, that a monument was finally erected at the battle site, demanded by local villagers who remembered the day the ghost tank saved their village. According to military historians, Kolobanov's actions significantly slowed down the Wehrmacht's offensive toward Leningrad. Those crucial hours may have helped save the city from falling in August 1941. Military experts call this one of the most productive tank battles in world history. 22 tanks destroyed by a single crew in 30 minutes, a record that has never been matched. Think about that for a moment. In the time it takes to watch a TV episode, Kolobanov's crew destroyed an entire German tank battalion. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe for more.